Let's talk about boundaries. For too long, many of us have equated kindness with submission, patience with silence, and generosity with overextending ourselves. But here's the hard truth: being nice often turns into being agreeable at the cost of our own voice. It's time to redefine what it means to be strong and compassionate without erasing ourselves. Nice is often a mask we wear to avoid conflict, rejection, or judgment. But behind that mask is a person who craves to be seen and valued for who she truly is, not just for how she makes others feel. And when we're overly nice to men, we unconsciously send a message: I'll take care of you, even if it means abandoning my own needs. Let's dive deeper into the idea that boundaries define respect. Boundaries are not walls meant to shut people out. They are guidelines that protect your well-being and clarify how you expect to be treated. They are the foundation of any healthy relationship, whether personal, professional, or romantic. And when it comes to interactions with men or anyone, it's crucial to establish those boundaries early and consistently. Here's the reality: if you don't set boundaries, people will define them for you. They might not do it maliciously, but they'll act based on what you allow. When you say yes to everything, even at the expense of your own needs, you're teaching others that your time, energy, and emotions are endlessly available for their use. Over time, this dynamic creates an imbalance where respect takes a backseat to convenience. Boundaries are an act of self-respect, and enforcing them is not selfish, it's essential. When you draw the line, you're sending a powerful message: I value myself enough to protect my time, energy, and emotional health. This isn't about confrontation or hostility. It's about clarity. It's about communicating your needs and expectations in a way that ensures mutual respect and understanding. For example, let's say a man dismisses your feelings or demands more of your time than you're willing to give. Without boundaries, you might brush it off or accommodate him to avoid conflict. But with boundaries, you're able to say, I appreciate your perspective, but my feelings matter too. Or, I'm unable to commit to that right now. And I hope you can understand these are not acts of defiance, they're acts of self-care. Respect is not a gift someone gives you, it's a response you earn by showing that you respect yourself. When you enforce your boundaries, some people may resist or even push back. That's normal. Boundaries can feel uncomfortable for others because they disrupt patterns where they benefited from your lack of limits. But remember, their discomfort is not your responsibility. In fact, boundaries often enhance relationships. They create an environment of trust, honesty, and mutual accountability. By defining what you need and expect, you're paving the way for healthier, more balanced connections. And if someone reacts negatively to your boundaries, it's a reflection of their lack of respect, not a flaw in your worth. Ultimately, boundaries are a way of saying, I matter and I won't compromise my dignity or well-being for the comfort of others. And when you consistently practice this, you inspire others to treat you with the respect you've already claimed for yourself. Boundaries don't just define respect, they teach others how to show it. Authenticity is a deeply empowering choice, but let's not sugarcoat it. It's not always the easy one. Choosing authenticity over approval means prioritizing your truth over the opinions of others. It's about showing up as you are, even if it means risking rejection, misunderstanding, or judgment. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to seek approval. Whether it's the praise of a parent, the acceptance of friends, or the validation of society, we learn to value the external applause more than our internal alignment. Over time, this approval seeking becomes a pattern. We mold ourselves into versions we think will please others: agreeable, accommodating, and easy to love. But here's the hard truth: approval is fleeting, and the cost of constantly chasing it is often our own authenticity. When you prioritize approval, you're playing a role. You become what you think others want you to be, which might earn temporary validation, but leaves you feeling disconnected from yourself. Authenticity, on the other hand, is the courage to say, this is me, this is what I believe, how I feel, and how I choose to show up in the world. Letting go of the need for approval doesn't mean you stop caring about people or relationships. It means you start valuing your relationship with yourself as much as or more than external validation. It's a mindset shift. Instead of asking, how can I make them like me? You ask, am I being true to myself right now? Here's where authenticity gets tricky. It requires vulnerability. It means you might say things others don't want to hear. You might stand alone when it feels safer to follow the crowd. You might risk someone not liking you. But every time you choose authenticity, you strengthen your connection to yourself, and that is priceless. Consider this approval as conditional. It often depends on how well you fit someone else's expectations. But authenticity is unconditional. It's about being enough as you are without needing to bend or shrink to make others comfortable. And when you embrace authenticity, the approval you do receive becomes more meaningful because it's based on who you really are, not the role you played. Let's be clear, being authentic doesn't mean being rude, inconsiderate, or reckless. It means being honest and intentional. It's saying what you mean, owning your feelings, and honoring your values, even when it's uncomfortable. And yes, it can lead to difficult moments. You might lose people who prefer the more agreeable version of you. But the people who stay the ones who see you, respect you, and love you as you are, those are your people. When you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim your power. You stop being a performer in someone else's play and start writing your own story. It's liberating, it's grounding, and it's the only path to a life that feels genuinely fulfilling. Approval is nice, but authenticity, that's freedom, that's peace. And that's how you build a life rooted in your truth, not someone else's expectations. Kindness is often misunderstood. For many, it's seen as weakness or a sign of submission, a way to avoid conflict, keep the peace, or gain favor. But true kindness is far from passive or fragile. It's one of the strongest, most transformative forces you can wield, not because it's easy, but because it requires courage, emotional intelligence, and a deep understanding of your own worth. Let's start with what kindness is not. Kindness is not about being a doormat. It's not about saying yes to everything, overlooking bad behavior, or sacrificing your needs to make others happy. When kindness comes from a place of fear of rejection, conflict, or being judged, it becomes an act of submission. It stops being genuine and turns into a tool for survival, which ultimately erodes its power. True kindness, however, is rooted in strength. It's choosing to treat people with respect, even when they don't deserve it, not because you're weak, but because you refuse to let their behavior dictate your values. It's the ability to show compassion without compromising your boundaries. It's giving not to please or gain approval, but because it aligns with who you are. Being kind requires a level of confidence that says, I can stand in my truth and still treat you with dignity. It takes strength to remain kind when faced with negativity, judgment, or disrespect. It's not about letting others walk over you. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to walk away with grace. For example, imagine someone treats you unfairly. A submissive response might be to let it slide, hoping to avoid confrontation. But kindness with strength looks different. It might mean calmly addressing the issue, setting a boundary, or even choosing to remove yourself from the situation. The key difference is that your kindness isn't tied to a need for approval, it's tied to your integrity. Kindness also requires discernment. Not everyone will appreciate or reciprocate your kindness, and that's okay. Being kind doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment or giving endlessly to those who take advantage. In fact, one of the kindest things you can do for yourself and others is to recognize when a relationship or situation is harmful and step away. Here's the beauty of kindness: it has the power to shift dynamics and inspire change, but it's most impactful when it's authentic and unforced. Kindness doesn't mean you have to solve everyone's problems, always agree, or sugarcoat your words. Sometimes kindness is tough love, sometimes it's saying no because that's what's right for you, and sometimes it's letting someone face the consequences of their actions because shielding them would do more harm than good. Kindness is strength because it requires you to know yourself, stand by your values, and choose compassion even when it's not easy. It's not a sign of submission, it's a sign of mastery over your emotions and your interactions with the world. Remember, this kindness is not about being less for the sake of others. It's about being fully yourself while choosing to act with care and dignity. That's not weakness, that's power. That's grace. And that's the kind of kindness that changes lives, starting with your own. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "I'm sorry for something that didn't even require an apology"? You bump into someone, you apologize. You speak up in a meeting, you apologize for taking up time. You set a boundary, and the first words out of your mouth are, "I'm sorry," but it's a habit many of us, especially women, have developed not out of genuine remorse, but out of a misplaced desire to smooth over situations, avoid conflict, or appear polite. But here's the truth: over apologizing diminishes your power. Every unnecessary apology chips away at your confidence and sends a message to others and to yourself that your presence, your voice or your needs are somehow a burden. It's time to stop apologizing for simply existing, for having opinions, for taking up space, and for living life on your own terms. Apologies are meaningful when they're used intentionally. They carry weight when they're reserved for situations where you've caused harm, made a mistake, or need to make amends. But when you apologize for things like your feelings, your choices, or circumstances beyond your control, you devalue the sincerity of a real apology and undermine your self-worth. Why do we apologize so much? For many, it's rooted in the fear of being perceived as difficult, unlikable, or selfish. We're taught that being agreeable is the safest path to acceptance. So we use "I'm sorry" as a shield away to soften our presence and avoid standing out. But here's the irony: apologizing for who you are doesn't make people respect you more, it often does the opposite. Let's talk about boundaries. When you apologize for setting them, you're essentially saying, "My needs are less important than your comfort," for example. When you decline an invitation and follow it with a long-winded apology, you're signaling that your decision requires justification. Instead, try simply saying, "Thank you for inviting me, but I can't make it no excuses," no unnecessary remorse. Apologizing also creeps into how we express ourselves. Think about it: how many times have you prefaced a valid point with, "I'm sorry, but..." When you do this, you're immediately diminishing the impact of your words. You're apologizing for having a voice, for contributing, for being present, but you don't need to. Your thoughts and opinions are just as valid as anyone else's. Stopping the habit of over-apologizing doesn't mean you become rude or inconsiderate. It means you learn to distinguish between genuine regret and a conditioned response. Instead of saying "I'm sorry" when you're late, try "Thank you for your patience." Instead of apologizing for your emotions, say "Thank you for listening." By replacing unnecessary apologies with gratitude or assertiveness, you reframe the interaction in a way that empowers both you and the other person. This shift won't happen overnight. Breaking the habit of over-apologizing requires awareness and practice. You'll catch yourself saying "I'm sorry" out of reflex. And that's okay. The important part is recognizing it and making a conscious effort to reframe your response. Over time, you'll notice how much lighter and more confident you feel when you're no longer apologizing for being yourself. So stop apologizing for things that don't require an apology. Stop apologizing for your feelings, your opinions, your boundaries, or your presence. You are not a problem to be solved or a burden to be managed. You are a person with value, worthy of respect, and fully deserving of taking up space in this world. Standing in your truth is one of the most courageous acts you can commit to in life. It means showing up as your most authentic self, unapologetically and without compromise, even in the face of discomfort or disapproval. It's about aligning your words, actions, and choices with who you truly are, rather than bending to fit the expectations of others. Standing in your truth requires self-awareness. You can't live authentically if you don't know what you value, what you believe, and what drives you. It starts with asking yourself the hard questions: what matters most to me? What do I stand for? What am I willing to fight for, even if it means standing alone? When you take the time to answer these questions honestly, you begin to build the foundation of your truth. Living your truth also means letting go of the fear of judgment. Not everyone will understand or agree with you, and that's okay. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your choices, nor do you need their approval to validate your path. Standing in your truth is not about convincing others to see things your way. It's about owning your decisions and being at peace with them. There's a profound strength that comes with being true to yourself. It empowers you to set boundaries, say no when you mean it, and walk away from situations that don't align with your values. It's not always easy. Standing in your truth can mean making hard decisions, facing criticism, or risking relationships that no longer serve you. But the alternative, betraying yourself to keep others comfortable, is far more costly. When you stand in your truth, you give others permission to do the same. Authenticity is contagious. It inspires those around you to question their own masks, to confront their own fears, and to start living in alignment with their own truths. This doesn't mean everyone will follow suit, but it does mean you're setting a powerful example of what it means to live with integrity and courage. Standing in your truth is a daily practice. It's a commitment to choose yourself, even in small moments. It's about speaking up when you'd rather stay silent, admitting when you're wrong, and making choices that reflect your deepest values, even when they're unpopular. It's a reminder that your truth is your anchor in a world that constantly tries to pull you in different directions. Niceness and kindness are often used interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. While niceness is about being agreeable, polite, and avoiding conflict, kindness comes from a deeper, more intentional place. Kindness isn't always wrapped in a pretty bow, it's not always comfortable, and it's certainly not always convenient. Kindness is rooted in integrity, honesty, and care for others, even when it's difficult. Niceness often seeks harmony at any cost. It's saying what someone wants to hear instead of what they need to hear. It's agreeing to something you don't want to do because you don't want to ruffle feathers. Niceness prioritizes avoiding discomfort for yourself and for others, even if it means being dishonest or compromising your values. It's surface level and often transactional. I'll be nice to you if it keeps things easy or earns me something in return. Kindness, on the other hand, is about authenticity and connection. It's choosing to be honest, even if it's uncomfortable. It's setting boundaries, even if it disappoints someone. It's holding space for others in a way that respects their humanity, not just their feelings in the moment. Kindness isn't about being liked, it's about being real. Imagine a friend is making poor choices that are hurting themselves and others. Niceness might look like staying silent, not wanting to judge or upset them, but kindness. Kindness would be having a tough conversation, pointing out what you see and offering support, even if it's not what they want to hear. Kindness requires courage because it's not about taking the easy road, it's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. Niceness also has its limits. People often mistake niceness for kindness and end up giving too much of themselves away. They say yes when they mean no, avoid conflict at all costs, and suppress their needs to please others. Over time, this leads to resentment, burnout, and a loss of self-respect. True kindness, however, includes kindness to yourself. It understands that your well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. Kindness is also about taking action. While niceness might involve offering platitudes or avoiding confrontation, kindness steps into the messiness of life. It's showing up for someone in their time of need, even if it's inconvenient. It's offering a helping hand without expecting anything in return. And sometimes it's having the strength to walk away from toxic situations because enabling someone isn't kind to them or to you. Niceness often seeks approval, while kindness seeks to connect and uplift. Niceness can be passive, kindness is intentional. Kindness isn't afraid of discomfort because it knows that growth, healing, and real connection often come through moments of challenge. The world doesn't need more people who are just nice, it needs people who are kind. Kind enough to speak truth even when it's hard. Kind enough to set boundaries even when it's uncomfortable. Kind enough to care for themselves as much as they care for others. And kind enough to do the right thing, not the easy thing. Niceness might keep the peace in the short term, but kindness builds trust, respect, and meaningful relationships in the long term. True kindness goes beyond appearances. It's an act of courage, an expression of love, and a commitment to living with integrity. In the end, understanding the difference between niceness and kindness allows us to navigate relationships with authenticity and purpose. Niceness may offer temporary ease, but kindness builds lasting connections grounded in respect and truth. By choosing kindness, we honor ourselves and others, fostering an environment where real growth and meaningful relationships can thrive. It's not about avoiding conflict or seeking approval, it's about showing up with honesty, compassion, and integrity. In a world that often prioritizes appearances, choosing kindness over niceness is a bold and powerful act of courage.